My name is Jeremy Schaub. I work for Engineering Assessments Atlantic, and with me is Senior Chief Rambeau from ATG Norfolk. We're here filming a demonstration of MRG maintenance, and of course the first step in that is to prepare to go into that secured area around what will end up being an open MRG. In accordance with the MRC, they talk briefly about it. I'm looking here at the A5 for the transmission propulsion systems. This is the A5, which is inspect spray nozzles and inspect reduction gears. And the wording in here, it's the first caution, and it says, ensure no untethered objects enter gear case, remove all articles from pockets, all jewelry from body, and all removable insignias and devices. Do not leave open gear case unattended, and maintain constant security. And some of the MRCs, that warning is worded a little bit differently. But the idea behind all of them is that anytime you're going to go into an area where you're going to be in the vicinity of an open MRG, everything that is loose is going to either be removed, all of your tools are going to be tethered to your person or tethered to the MRG casing. Everything that you have has to be inventoried, both going in and coming out, and we're going to minimize all of that. So taking things off, like taking your cover off, if you don't need your eyeglasses, we'll take the eyeglasses off. If you're going to use them, we'll have a lanyard on them. All of our pockets and all of our snaps will be taped over. One of the MRC specifically calls out zippers and buttons. The bulwark coveralls, the fire retardant coveralls, most of them no longer have buttons, they're all snaps, so we're going to tape over the snaps. And in this case, it's just as important to meet the spirit of the MRC, the spirit of that caution, as it is to meet the letter of it. So we're going to tape over everything that could possibly come loose, and you'll see we'll even tape over the eyelets in the 9-inch steel-toed boots, just as a precaution, because you don't want anything that could possibly come loose off of your garments to wind up in the MRG. So what we're going to do now, Senior Chief is going to start taping himself off, and we'll talk about a little bit about what's required there. You can see I took off my wedding ring. Everything's out of my pockets except for the microphone. Everything else will get taped off, and then all of our tools and everything that we take in will all be lanyard off. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. That's okay. What's up? Yeah. So you'll see us using this heavy-duty rigging tape, which ensures that nothing will come off. But it's going to leave residue on almost everything we put it on. So a pair of coveralls that are in good repair, you don't want a bunch of tears where things can fall through, but it is going to leave residue on there. You can use a different tape as long as you're sure that it's not going to fall off, because then the pieces of tape become thawed in the MRG as well. So you want something that sticks, and that'll keep everything safe. In this case, it's much more important that absolutely nothing falls off than it is if we have a little bit of duct tape residue on our coveralls or our glasses. So you'll see not only does he have a lanyard to keep his glasses on his face, but then he's taping that in place, because depending on the type of lanyard you have or retention system you have, those can always slip off. And so again, if you're going to be looking down into that MRG, your glasses could slide off. You're in an engineering space, it's going to be hot, you're going to be sweaty. So you want to make sure that all of that's secured. And then you'll see every snap, even the ones that aren't snapped, even the ones that you only would see if you were in battle dress, all of that's going to get a piece of tape over it, just in case something were to catch on here, or for some reason that would fail and fall off. So every piece of metal is going to fall off, or is going to be taken off. For those sailors who use a pin-on name tag, obviously that would all come off. For the facility that we're in, we have a security badge, a visitor's badge. Of course, that all comes off. His pockets are empty. We're going to tape over them just in case, because of the habit we have of inadvertently just sticking things into our pockets. So all of his openings, all of his pockets will be taped over so nothing can go in them, and we'll verify that they're all clear. So we're going to start with his boots. Again, he's got the the standard, the required 9-inch black steel-toed boots. You'll see mine. I went a different way. I've actually got an all-leather steel-toe slip-on boot, so that way I don't have to tape over mine. But he has the grommets in there, so every one of these steel eyelets or grommets, these hooks, all of that's got to be covered up because there's always a possibility of one of those popping off. And again, we're going to be climbing around the MRG, so all of that's got to be secured. So we'll put tape over, I guess, each side. And again, some of this may seem like it's overkill, right? The MRC says buttons and zippers, but you have to figure the cost of getting one of these metal eyelets down into your MRG, right? Just the time cost, or the cost of the time it would take to fish it out. If you did notice that it came in, or that it fell out. And then of course the dollar value of if you were to run that MRG and one of these eyelets were jammed between the teeth of the MRG. What's that? Sure.
The other camera and get down low.
Okay.
For the second boot. Just go ahead and hold a second.
Do you have a bag or something to?
Not really. I'll go for back.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
That's what I do.
Sorry, I'm sure it looked like I was being careless and just putting it aside, but I was being very deliberate. I just didn't want to.
I just put it back.
Okay.
It's all right.
There. And I'm still recording. And okay.
I'm not taping the crotch. So on the coveralls themselves, right, we're looking for zipper tabs and we're looking for snaps. And on these, the way they're set up is there's one bottom zipper right in the crotch, right? So there's a bottom zipper there, then there's a snap, and then the top zipper, and then the 2 additional snaps. So you can either do each individually or what we're going to do, and then we're going to just run a strip all the way up the front, and that'll cover all of them. And then we'll put 2 pieces on the snaps up here on the collar. know how tall you are. Maybe I'm overestimating. And again, you just want to make sure that that flap is closed and that all those pieces of metal are covered by that piece of tape. I'm going to cut that off. Okay. And of course, for the sailors who are either just been frocked or haven't gotten their coveralls corrected and they're wearing metal insignia, of course those insignias would have to come off while they're doing this. Any of the name tapes that are being held on by loose threads, or if they're starting to peel off, if they're going to come off, again, either tape over them or go ahead and remove them completely. What's it? Can we just put, instead of wrapping it around? Okay. And then your pockets. And again, the MRC specifically spells out taping over your pockets. So even if they're empty, you're still required to tape over the opening. And again, that's to prevent you from putting anything into them or anything from falling into them. Long enough. And then don't forget the pen pocket on the arm if your coveralls have that. And of course, it doesn't eliminate the risk, but it does minimize it. As long as everything that could come off has been taped over. We'll do his cuffs as well. And there's no reason to tape those cuffs down tight onto your arms. You still need the flexibility to move around. You just want to cover it and protect that snap. So that's what you end up with. Excuse me, the back pockets, we'll do the back pockets as well. That's fine, I've got one there. Now mine will be a little bit different because I'll have a flashlight that'll be lanyard to me and it'll be in my pocket. And I'll also have the MRC with me and that'll be folded in my pocket. But I will tape over the snaps to make sure that I have them. So that's taping you up if you're going if you're going to be in the secure area over an open MRG. As you can see, every piece of metal that can come off comes off. Those that can't get taped over to make sure that they're secure. The other thing we're going to talk about is the tools you're going to bring in. Again, just the inventory, the MRC. It says ensure no untethered objects enter the gear case. All right, and the way to do that is you put a lanyard on everything you intend to bring with you. Everything that we have, even for this, all of the camera equipment we're using, the microphones, all of that will be inventoried before we go in. And then any tools that we're going to have that'll be in the vicinity of that open cover will have lanyard. And the way we're doing that is just taking about a piece of 3-foot string, and we're tying one end to the tool, and it's got to be in a way that it won't come off, right? So you got to figure out if the tools have holes in them, then that's easy, but when they don't have holes in them, it's about tying it tight enough that'll keep this tool secured. If you're wearing coveralls that have belt loops, then you can certainly tie them off to those belt loops. These don't have belt loops, so we'll actually, whenever I tape off, I'll run tape and then I'll tie it to the tape that I'm using for that. So we've got the socket, the ratchet. We've got the socket. Make sure that the string you're using is compressible enough that it'll fit on the hardware with that string in there. But that's the only way. It's not enough to tie off the ratchet with the socket attached, because of course that socket can come off. So you've got to do both. So we've got the ratchet, we've got the socket that you need. We've got the open end wrench that we need. And again, this one's tricky to tie off. If you don't have a hole drilled in the tool, if it's a box end wrench, that makes it easy. If it's an open end wrench without that box, trying to find a way that it'll still hold tight and still stay secure. So luckily there was an indentation here that we can use that. Depending on the maintenance that you're doing, if you're using the clutching tool, make sure that that's tied off securely. And you can see this is a different string. This is the one that you normally use. It doesn't matter what the string is or what the tether is made of, as long as it's secure. Of course, the MRG keys, it seems silly, but of course you still have to have those lanyard. Typically they would be in your pocket, but that's not what we want to do. So we have the keys lanyard. If you're more comfortable, you can run the string through all 3 keys and the label for them. So whatever your comfort level is there. In this case, I just did it through the retaining ring because the retaining ring was in good shape. It's not sprung. It's not just wire tied together. It's an actual key ring. Rags, we'll inventory all the rags that we take in. You'll use those to clean the area outside the inspection cover prior to opening it. And then you'll also, for us, we'll use a piece of plexiglass to cover the inspection cover. And so we use the rags for wiping that down. And of course, you're always getting oil or grease when you're checking things. So these will typically not go inside the MRG case. Most of it will be peripheral, wiping down the plexiglass, wiping down the opening. So you can do it one of 2 ways. The MRC calls out tethering all the tools. You can argue the rag's not a tool, but you can either tether it so that you have it attached to your person, which is the safest route. We've gotten clearance for the rest of the rags. We'll have them inventoried. We'll take 4 rags in and we'll bring 4 rags out. And that's how normally we would see it. But I did want tethering them to you. If you think you're going to be wiping down the actual gear teeth, putting the rag inside the gear casing, then you want to have them tethered. And it's not that it'll be able so that you can retrieve them if it does slip out of your hands. The other thing that we're taking into the secure area is the actual MRC. So what I did is I actually removed the staple. There's no reason to have the staple. It's just another piece of metal that you don't need in the secure area. And then right now I have 3 pages of the MRC, so we have it documented. I'm taking in 3 pages of paper for the MRC, and I'll have that on me. Again, it'll never go over the top of the opening, so it won't be tethered, but it will be inventoried, and we'll make sure we're cautious about how we handle it. But again, take the staple out. That way, if it does go into the MRC, you don't have that metal in there that can cause damage. The card calls for non-vented goggles, which is absolutely fine and works very well. But what we found with almost 40 years of experience, or I guess just over 40 years of experience between the 2 of us, putting a piece of plexiglass that has been cut to the opening of the inspection cover allows a better view of the spray patterns. So we'll open the inspection cover and we'll place the plexiglass on top of that, and that'll not only will it be easier for our cameras to pick up the spray pattern, but it's also easier to do that visual inspection than trying to look through the fogged up, non-vented goggles that everybody in the Navy seems to struggle with. So this is a great idea. Obviously, we just had them cut local hardware store, or the HTs have something, HTs or MRs have something laying around. They can cut it to it enough, clean enough that you can see through it, so that scratches don't give you a false indication of what you're looking at. So again, you can tether them. You can drill a hole in one corner and run a line through them and tether them. We've cut ours so that they're large enough so they won't fit through the opening, so there's no risk of actually those entering the MRG case. We'll both have nitrile gloves on, so that if we do touch the teeth, that's the oil hazard. So we'll have nitrile gloves on. Again, not tethered, but they will be inventoried. So we have two different sets. Obviously, if you're using the 4 mil, you have to wear 2 pair. If you're using the 8 mil, the heavier ones, which the MRC calls for, then obviously 1 pair will be fine. You do want to be careful if your gloves tear at any point, or your fingers punch through them. I would back out and I would get new gloves, because even those little pieces can fall off. So once you do have a hole in them, come back out of the secure area and get a new pair of gloves. With that, I'll get taped out. All of our tools are ready to be tied off. Those will be tied off to me, or they'll be tied off to the MRG casing, whatever we need in order to give us the greatest flexibility. We'll complete our inventory, we'll do a quick safety brief, and then we'll open the access cover. Thank you.